Welcome to AHRC TV's Just Asia. Here are the headlines for this week's program. December 10th marks Human Rights Day. Nepal, citizens suffer undemocratic institutions. Indonesia, violence persists 17 years after democratic reform. Bangladesh, institutional decay amidst political chaos. The Philippines, nomads targeted in 2015. Welcome to Just Asia. I am Amila Sampath. December 10th marks Human Rights Day. This was the day in 1948 when the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The theme of this particular year's Human Rights Day is Our Rights, Our Freedoms, Always, with a particular focus on freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear. It aims to raise awareness about the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which were adopted in 1966 and together with the Declarations of Human Rights, form the International Bill of Rights, which are the birthrights of all human beings in the world. Despite decades of campaigning since these declarations were adopted, these universal rights are far from reality for millions of people around the world, perhaps nowhere more so than in Asia. Despite recent progress in some of countries due to political changes such as Burma and Sri Lanka, the possibility of enjoyment of these rights is shrinking rapidly. Press freedom and freedom of expression has seen dramatic worsening, for example in Thailand, India and China, whereas in Bangladesh and Pakistan, it is more dangerous to be a human rights defender today than in any decade since the birth of these nations. Just Asia spoke with a number of human rights defenders, both within the Asian Human Rights Commission and elsewhere in Asia, to find out their primary concern on this momentous day. The AHRC is concerned about the worsening conditions of human rights in Nepal. Since April 25th this year, the country has seen violent clashes between armed police forces and Madeshi and Tharu protesters. Police have not followed the minimum standard for crowd control. On the other hand, protesters have turned to vandalism and to lynching security officers. The nature of the criminal justice institution in Nepal is what is behind this crisis. The institutions need to be rebuilt for the country to effectively deal with these issues. Just Asia talked to local human rights defenders in Nepal.
Because of the illiteracy, they thought that it is the rules, it is the society. If someone or if our husband is beating us, then it has happened normally, so it is acceptable for us. That's why that may be the main cause that they accepted the violence.
The number of incidents of torture is ongoing. Basically, in the field of criminal justice system, there are many kind of tortures in the custodial tortures. Major incident of custodial torture in Nepal. There are hundreds of thousands of tortures were done in the time of conflict. The torture incident is decreasing than the conflict, but the pattern of torture is not different than the conflict. So that's the serious issues. And major the criminal justice systems, there are many thousands of tortures, and there are many kind of miscarriages of justice due to the torture as well. When the police forcefully confess to the person, then sometimes many court can use this kind of confessions as evidence. That's another major problem. So due to the case of due to the conflicts of torture, many victims of torture are in injustice, and they are in miscarriage of justice.
The program next turns to Indonesia, which is a country where various human rights violations still prevail, despite 17 years having passed since the end of the Soeharto's regime. Torture, land grabbing, impunity of past human rights abuses, fabricated cases, and unfair trial are some of the injustice. Several laws and regulations are not in line with the principles of human rights. Victims do not receive remedy, for a perpetrator remain unpunished for serious crimes. Just Asia interviews Indonesian human rights lawyer Tharu.
1 year under President Widodo administration, Indonesia still faces serious problems. Criminal justice system remain weak. No prosecution of gross violation of human rights has been conducted. Moreover, under President Widodo, Indonesia also faces serious problems, namely weakening of the Corruption Eradication Commission or KPK. The parliament will revise the anti-criminal law and weakening its mandate. Furthermore, in the case of Mr. Novel Baswedan, a senior investigator of the Corruption Eradication Commission, the police insist to prosecute him although the evidence does not strong enough. The Novel case was reopened after KPK named Commissaris General Budi Gunawan, Deputy Police Chief, as a suspect of graft. The police charged Novel for allegedly causing suspect thieves to be shot when he served as police chief detective in Bengkulu Police Resort in 2004. Novel has been alleged to be responsible for the shooting conducted by his subordinate.
In Pakistan, the year 2015 began with the country reeling from the massacre of 120 school children in Peshawar. The government then imposed a strict security regime and came up with 20-point action plan to curb militancy. In the first part of implementation, the government lifted the moratorium on execution within an estimated 8,000 people on death row. 311 these convicts have since been hung, putting Pakistan in third places in average execution on daily basis in 2015. The government also established military courts through constitutional amendment. The courts are given wide power to hold in a camera proceeding and set aside due to process and fair trial. Law enforcement agencies have been given unlimited powers, including shot at sight, keeping suspects for 19 days without producing them before the courts. In 2015, over 1,500 persons have been killed due to law enforcement agencies being given extrajudicial power and enforced disappearances continued. To learn more, Just Asia speak with Pakistan expert Basir Navid.
The year 2015 was the worst in the form of human rights violations. The government has not improved any kind of law or the situation to have the improvement in the human rights. But rather on the other side, actually the military is running the whole affairs of the government. Military has been given the power to have military courts through the parliament, and it was given under the constitutional amendment. And also that government has given powers to the law enforcement agencies to have that shoot at sight, that power of shoot at sight to any suspect, or keeping the person for 90 days in their detention without producing the suspect in the courts. All these powers have actually were made the situation very worse. Now more than 1,500 persons have been executed, extrajudicially killed, sorry, not executed, extrajudicially killed in the encounters. And more than 300 persons, till now 311 persons are executed during this year. So country has become a kind of executions, that every day now if you count, every day one person is hanged. And this is the situation where there is no remedy. The courts have been deprived of their rights to review the decisions of the military courts. So this is going on, and it looks that law enforcement agencies have got impunity by the constitution and by the law. So the coming years, we are afraid that those years would be very difficult for the people of Pakistan. On the one side, we say that there is civilian government, parliament, judiciary is independent, executives are working according to the law, but actually the military is running the country.
Human rights are universally recognized inherent rights of all human beings. Rights that are enshrined in the international treaties or constitution of states must be realized in the daily life of individual human beings. However, without complemented justice institutions, human rights cannot be protected. Just Asia interviews Mohammad Ashraful Zaman about the status of justice institution in Bangladesh.
The human rights community should change the way of observing World Human Rights Day. It is not only the day that we celebrate and talk about rights and international norms or Universal Declaration of Human Rights and then go home, sleep comfortably. Rather, what we should do is that we should examine the institutions, the judiciary, the police, the prosecution, the prisons, how these institutions are established and how much they are actually independent, how much they are competent, how much courageous and efficient they are to take the perpetrators and hold the perpetrators for the crimes they have been alleged to have committed. So from those perspectives, the examinations has to be done in terms of each of these institutions, because unless a country has an institution, whatever is written in the international human rights norms or in the constitution of any given country, the rights of the people will never be realized and their dignity as human being will never be protected. So, if we want to talk about human rights, we must concentrate to the basic justice institutions of every country, and I request the human rights defenders and the civil society of Bangladesh to do so.
Just Asia next turns to the Philippines. This year, Lumads in Mindanao have been under attack. From October 2014 to June 2015, 23 Lumad leaders were killed. According to Kaluhamin, a regional organization of Lumad in Mindanao, 7 communities that consist of 300 families and 2,000 individuals, including children, have been affected. Heavy military presence have been seen in Lumad communities. Just Asia interviewed Lorna Mirna, a member of Kaluhamin.
Siyempre kung diha sa Sarangani province, naa diha ang look mining gani. Ang look mining na naglangkob sa 16,286 hectares og usapod na sa area nila nga target sa look mining. Nya ang isa sa kuan nila kung naang siyempre kung naang mga dinagkong pagmina, naang presensya sa militar. Siyempre isip mga lumad, membro sa Kaluhamin, ilalom sa Kaluhamin, kahugpungan sa mga lumad sa layong habagatang Mindanao, ang unang demand sa gobyerno, una kung kayang i-fall out yun ang militar diha, kay mo na ang hinungdan sa pagkawatak-watak, pagharas, mga food blockades nga mahitabo diha sa mga komunidad, i-fall out nila ang militar. Pero ang maximum gyud nga pangayo sa mga tao, ang militar dili magpundo sa komunidad. Kay anytime nga magsulong ang ilang kaaway, maapil ang mga sibilyan, maapil gyud ang katawang lumad. Isa pa, ang mga estudyante di naka-eskwela, gani di pang atake ang mga eskwelahan diha, ang mga alternative school nga gihatag sa mga NGOs nga unta. Pasalamat ang gobyerno nga naihatag ang mga NGOs nga eskwelahan diha para matagaan og pagtuon ng mga katawang lumad, pero sukwahi sa kahimtang karon diha sa mga komunidad kay inay nga magtabang ang mga NGOs kana pang iatake nila.
Finally, Just Asia interviews the Asian Human Rights Commission's Executive Director, Bijoy Francis, and the Asian Human Rights Commission's Director for Policy and Programs, Basil Fernando, to take their message on changes needed in Asia.
December 10 is internationally celebrated as the Human Rights Day. This year, the UN has declared that December 10 will kickstart a one-year-long celebration of the 50th anniversary of two important international conventions, which is the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Now, when it comes to Asia, the rights guaranteed under the convention have so far remained in paper as guarantees that remained in paper for Asian people. Now, one of the important reasons why it has remained so is because Asia's justice institutions are not equipped or geared to guarantee human rights. Now, if we come to one of the prominent components or one of the important components of the justice institution, which is the police. Police in Asia is considered to be one of the important or one of the prominent violators of human rights. In paper, it is considered to be or it is expected to be the guarantor of safety of people, person and property, whereas in reality, police is the abuser of personal safety and police is used to snatch people from the snatch property away from the people arbitrarily. The same applies to the judiciary. Now, judiciary is supposed to be an independent body which has the power and the mandate, therefore, to intervene in cases or instances or in all instances where a person's human rights has been violated. But unfortunately, in the Asian context, where the judiciary is plagued with so many problems, including delay, corruption, lack of independence and so on, judiciary is not, the people do not expect their judiciary, expect their judges to be the guarantor of human rights by any means or to be the arbiter between the state's misuse of authority and the rights guaranteed under these conventions. So, while we celebrate the 50th anniversary of these two important conventions, which is brought across rights in principle and in theory to the people, it is equally important to discuss about how much and how far institutions in Asia, justice institutions in Asia, more particularly police, prosecution and judiciary in Asia, have contributed or is geared to guarantee these rights. As long as we do not get engaged in a debate and correct the problems which are appalling at the moment concerning three important state institutions, the police, the prosecution and the judiciary, however much we celebrate the rights guaranteed under two important conventions like this and many other UN conventions, all these rights and celebrations will only remain in paper until and unless Asia has or Asian states take their initiative to restructure, to redefine, to recalibrate justice institutions in Asian states. None of these rights, however many December 10s come and go, will still remain in paper. So what is important while we discuss about or while we celebrate an international human rights event like December 10 is that it is also occasion for all of us, civil society in particular, to think about how much and how far justice institutions in our countries are geared, are prepared and are allowed to guarantee these rights. As long as we don't engage in that debate, December 10 will come and go, but nothing will change for the people of Asia.
That is all for Just Asia this week. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.